We now begin the Dr. K.N. Udupa Memorial Lecture on Kidney Transplantation in COVID-19 Era Current Evidence. May I invite the speaker, Dr. Hari S. Mishra. I would like to invite the chairpersons for this oration, Dr. Manish Rathi, Dr. Rajesh R. Nair, and Dr. Manish Balwani. Over to the chairpersons.
First of all, we would like to thank ISOT organizers for giving us this opportunity to chair the prestigious K.N. Udupa lecture. This year, the oration will be delivered by Dr. Hari Shankar Mishra. He will be delivering oration on kidney transplantation in COVID-19 era, its current evidence. He has done MD Pediatrics and DM Nephrology from IKDRC ITS Ahmedabad. He has been awarded with Young Investigator Award at TTS ISODP Dubai 2019 and has also received Young Investigator Award from Korean Society of Nephrology at Seoul. He has published more than 48 research papers, out of which more than 35 papers are on COVID-19 and kidney diseases, especially in transplantation. He has special interest in infectious diseases related to organ transplantation. He has also published research on kidney pair donation and disease organ donation. I would request Jaiprakash Oja sir to please give brief introduction about K.N. Udupa sir.
Okay. Now, I have got a great pleasure to introduce my mentor, founder, director of Institute of Medical Sciences, Banaras University, Padam Shri Professor K.N. Udupa. His contribution in the field of surgery and as also is a very administrative position is a wonderful job, and his only mission was to give, never to take. Next, please. Now, Professor K.N. Udupa was born in July 28, 2020 in Udupi. His father was an astronomist who predicted at his birth. Kataj Narsingha Udupa, professor, involved the blood on his hand. After his initial struggle, every new day of the previous, and you will see these two predictions of his father happens to be true. He became surgeon and he became very prominent figure in field of medicine over in India and abroad. Next, please. Now, he initial schooling in his village. He came to Madras in 1936 but could not get admission. And in 1943, he did graduation from Ayurvedic College, Banaras University. He wanted to become surgeon. Then he moved to the Bombay. From Bombay, he moved to the Lahore. And he again joined the KM Hospital under Professor Parikh. And he got his initial training in surgery at Lahore Medical College. Next, please. Now look, a Ayurvedic graduate from India. In 1948, MS Surgery from Michigan University. In 1948, same year, he got FRCS Kannada in first attempt. And in 1964, he was the first graduate of the college which he has established. The interesting feature was Professor Udupa was an Ayurvedic graduate with post-graduation in modern medicine, MS and FRCS. Next, please. There are several ornaments attached to him. Now, most importantly, in 1950, he came to BHU on the request of then Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and joined the Ayurvedic College as a principal. In 1960, he started medical college at same place in Banaras University, and that time MSI objected that how a Ayurvedic graduate can become principal of a medical college. Then BHU conferred MBBS degree on him, first graduate of the Banaras University, and college was recognized by the MCI in 1965. Next, please. After 1965, college was upgraded to Institute of Medical Sciences, and he became the founder director, awarded Padam Shri in 1972, and died in the same month, the year he was born. He was born in July and died in July 1992. Next, please. Now, this is about the K.N. Udupa. Any interested person can read his biography. So, what his father had predicted, after initial struggle, every day of his life became better, and his life was full of struggle. His attitude was always to give, never to take. So, I have got a pleasure to inviting him, and now over to the organizer to start his oration by Dr. Meshram. Thank you, please.
Thank you, Jayaprakash Oja sir. Now I would request Dr. Hari Shankar Meshram to deliver the oration.
First of all, I would like to express my sincere thankfulness to IOCT Secretary Dr. Vivek sir and the whole IOCT scientific committee for considering me for this award. My topic would be kidney transplantation in COVID-19 era, current evidence. So, as we know that COVID-19 has impacted not only the whole medical community, but also transplantation. And the impact is limited not only to the transplant recipient, but also to the waitlisted patients. We have did this nationwide survey, and in this report, which is recently published, here we can see the transplantation numbers from the 2019 to the 2020. There is a abrupt drop during the lockdown period. And then even if the cases are rising, still we find that there is a increase in the number of transplantation rate. No, not to that extent which can be compared to the previous years, but still we can see that with assessing the risk and benefit and assessing the available resources and the COVID transmission rate, we can still conduct and resume transplantation activities even in the pandemic times. And the data also shows here that the impact and this drop in transplantation rate is more in the public sectors compared to the private sectors. So I was about to come to our single center experience where we have reported 225 KTR recipients who acquired COVID-19. And in this, we can see the severity of COVID-19 is around 20%. Only 20% of the cases had severe COVID-19. And also the overall mortality of the cohort was around 7.1%. And hospitalized mortality is around 9.3%. The most important risk factor for mortality and severity was older age and obesity. And one other important finding was that the patients which had low baseline creatinine, only those patients had graft loss in this report. During the pandemic, when there was no definitive therapy available, remdesivir came into limelight, and there were so many apprehension with the use of this drug in the KTR group, mostly because the kidneys are more vulnerable in this group of patients, and because of the complication which could arise due to liver derailments. We have found that in our report of 57 first cases which we have given remdesivir, there was no any such complications like altered RFT or any increase in the percentages of AKI. So we found that there was no safety issues with remdesivir, although later on the clinical trials showed that this drug is not associated with any reduced risk of mortality. This was our experience combining both the first wave and the second wave of the pandemic. Here we can see in the second wave of pandemic, the cases of pediatric patients have been more. Around from 0% to 5.9% of the cases are pediatric. And another important thing is that in the second wave of pandemic, the comorbidity burden was relatively less, and it was significantly less actually. And the mortality rate, that was similar to the first wave. Here is our unpublished data where we have compared both KTR and waitlist patients in the first wave and the second wave. On the right side, we can see the mortality in the first wave and the second wave combined is not that much different. But on the left side, we can see this is the comparison between KTR and waitlist. Both, we can see here that the mortality is high in the waitlisted group compared to the KTR group. Here we did a multicentric project for knowing whether the patients which acquired COVID-19 in immediate transplant period, whether they are at more risk of severity or mortality. So it was a project, and we found out that the incidence of early COVID-19, that is the cases which acquire COVID-19 within 1 month of transplant, was around 2.6% of the 832 transplants conducted from March 20 to May 2021. And also the incidence of early KTR was just around 2% of the 1049 KTR with COVID-19. Another very important finding from this report, we found out that the mortality in early KTR is not that high when we compare to the overall KTR. And another important thing is that the mortality in waitlisted patients were more compared to the KTR. It's around 5% more, from 10% to 15%. This is our analysis of the KTR group compared with the general patients. Our center was converted to dedicated COVID-19 center during the peak of the pandemic, in which we also included the patients which are general patients, not just the transplant patients. So here in the first wave of around 1627 patients, we have found that we did a propensity match scoring for comparing the baseline characteristics of both KTR and non-KTR, that means general patients. And after comparing that with propensity scores, we found that KTR is not an independent factor which was associated with mortality, albeit the advanced age was the only factor which was associated with mortality. This is another report which has been accepted. Here in the second wave, we have found out the same thing. Of 1052 patients, that KTR was not found to be an independent association with mortality. As we know that during the second wave, mucormycosis, the cases of mucormycosis emerged as a major public health problem, not just for transplant, but also for the general masses as well. So here we have reported mucormycosis cases. The first cases which we reported was of rhinocerebral mucormycosis and pulmonary mucormycosis, of which the pulmonary mucormycosis cases died. And recently we reported a case of disseminated mucormycosis. He was a healthcare worker who acquired splenic mucormycosis and finally succumbed to death. And we also have our data which is under review for mucormycosis as a single center experience, where we have reported around 10 to 12 cases of our centers. Here is the multi-center report which we have which has been just accepted recently. Here we have accumulated data from 18 centers, and of those 18 centers, there were 1382 kidney transplant cases which were having COVID-19, and of those 61 patients developed COVID-associated mucormycosis. The median age was 43, which is similar to all the cohorts which have been published, both from our single center as well as multi-centers. Here we can see the proportion of cases with pulmonary mucormycosis was very less. Pulmonary mucormycosis corresponds to just 8% compared to the ROCM cases. And another important thing is that the cases which acquire mucormycosis post-discharge, that were 59%. That means even if we are discharging the patients, it's important to just have a surveillance or a follow-up checkup of those discharged patients. And the reasons, or I mean to say risk factors for mortality of these cases, around 26% mortality was reported in this report. The risk factors were obesity, older age, and cases which acquired severe COVID-19. These were the major risk factors. And delay in antifungal therapy, which was mostly unavoidable because of the late diagnosis of mucormycosis in pulmonary cases, which was also responsible for most mortality in our report. The take-home message from this analysis is that mucormycosis is a deadly infection and it should be early recognized and early treated, and especially pulmonary mucormycosis, we should just have a meticulous approach for that, and mainly the early suspicion in all the cases which are not improving. Another important thing is that when the vaccination program was not known when the vaccination will be coming, there was always a chance of reinfection. This is our report where we have reported a case which developed a second infection, and in that second infection he succumbed. The first infection was mild infection, but the later, when he acquired around 4 months after the recovery of first infection, the patient died. Because of that, we conducted a multi-center project, and in this, 8 transplant centers were involved, and the data from 13 KTR was accumulated. Of those, we found that none of the cases had received vaccination, and the mortality in this second infection was really high. And the risk factors for mortality was severe disease, chest radiological abnormalities, and allograft dysfunction. These were the major risk factors for severe COVID-19 or mortality in second infection to COVID-19. Very important thing in transplantation related to COVID-19 is what we will do for the recovered patients. As the COVID-19 bombarded, especially in the second wave of pandemic, it's expected to get waitlist patients and donors which have recovered from COVID-19. So what should be the ideal protocol, ideal regimen, ideal immunosuppression for those cases? So this is the case report which was among the first report which we have published. Here there was a donor which died because of the COVID-19. And he was having around 1 month of stay. After that, his RT-PCR was negative. He was having some COVID-19 changes in the lungs, but that was residual effect. So we were in a dilemma whether to discard the organ or accept the organ. But finally, after a thorough meeting with our professional bodies, we decided to accept the organs. And this resulted in a successful transplant. So this was the deceased donor case. So again, we did a contemporary review and systemic review of all the cases, such cases. Around 25 reports we have collected, and 94 cases are there which have been transplanted from donors who have been recovered from COVID-19. So in all those reports, we have found that there is no such an issue, especially in the in context of donor-derived infections or cases with allograft dysfunctions or cases with any other adverse outcomes or complications. Mostly donation is quite safe in short-term outcomes. Another important thing is that the need of repeat RT-PCR. So ideally is to conduct 2 negative RT-PCR before proceeding for transplant, unless it is not an emergency transplant. And especially in lung transplant, we also find that it's a good option to have bile samples for RT-PCR. We have our report of 22 centers in our multi-center report, where 75 recovered patients have been reported. And here we find that these are in the center we can see the criteria for all these transplants which have been performed: 2 negative RT-PCR, no symptoms for 28 days, normal radiology, and social distancing for 14 days. This was for living related transplantation. The outcome was 100%. There was no graft loss in all these cases. The median follow-up was around 180 days. This is the only limitation which we can say, but still, it's an excellent work which we have done here, that the follow-up, even though it was relatively short, but still the outcome was comparable to the general patients. The only limitation which we feel is that the number of severe cases was relatively less. It was 9%. So we cannot justify for severe cases what should be the ideal protocol for the severe cases. So for now, we have not changed any immunosuppression protocol in any of the cases which have recovered from transplant COVID-19. This again, we did a systemic review of all the available reports. There are 44 reports available, and 183 all transplants. It includes liver, kidney, lung, and all. Here again, we found out that there is no adverse event in all those transplants, and the outcome, graft survival and patient survival, as well as any rejection episode, there was not an increased incidence of any of these. Another important thing, although we have not done in our setups or Indian scenarios, but many Western literature have accepted organs which are having RT-PCR positive, but maybe they have decided to proceed because they are having high CT value, that means low infectivity, and the presence of neutralizing antibodies in the recipients. or maybe the patient requires a life-saving operation, example, a liver transplant, emergency liver transplant for a liver failure. So in all those cases, they have proceeded with no threshold for proceeding for transplant. But for an elective operation like living donor kidney transplant, we can assume that we can say that ideal would be the 2 negative RT-PCR with complete clinical recovery. And now when the vaccination has been available to all, we suggest that all should get vaccinated before proceeding for transplant. Follow-up studies. Although there are very few reports of follow-up studies in COVID-19, we have reported our preliminary experience of BKV infections. Around 11 cases had concomitant BKV along with COVID-19. We have followed those 11 cases and we didn't find any graft losses in all those cases. The outcome was favorable in all those cases. Just working on that report, we just published our report of long-term follow-up of COVID recovered patients. In this, we have published 157 cases and median follow-up was around 11 months. And here we can see the only symptom which we found in this group of patients is the fatigue, which also gradually improved as we move towards increasing time. Beyond 7 months, it was really less. And we have also measured the quality of life from EQR score and EQ5D-5L scores. Again, we can see there is significant improvement in all those scores. At the management of this COVID-19, it was postulated that patient survivors may be more at risk of pulmonary fibrosis or all those complications, but we didn't found those such complications in our cohort. Only one of the cases of 157 had pulmonary fibrosis. And we also checked for medical research council scores for dyspnea. And again, there was significant improvement. There was no deterioration in the follow-up. I don't know whether this slide is visible to all or not, but here we can see the graft loss and the graft recovery was slow only in those cases, upper right corner, spaghetti plot showing, only on those cases whose baseline creatinine was higher. The cases which has normal creatinine, just even in the follow-up remained nice. Only those cases which had baseline creatinine higher, only those cases had graft losses, and those cases has incomplete recoveries. Now something about the evidence for vaccination. Even though we have so much data for the other vaccine available in the Western world, in Indian context, there are very few studies available. Here we have reported 4 cases of breakthrough COVID-19 after Oxford vaccination. Of all these 4 cases, at the time of the publication, 2 cases were on mechanical ventilation and 1 died. But now in follow-up, all 3 have died and only 1 is surviving. And all 4 cases, nobody has adequate antibody response, even though only 2 have this complete dose of 2 dose vaccine. This we have again reported recently for the waitlist patients and CKD patients. Here we have reported 11 cases, and of the 11 cases of breakthrough COVID-19, we have found that the mortality was not that high, and there was adequate response in most of the cases. Here is our preliminary data, which is under review. For the waitlist patients of 30 cases we have analyzed so far. Here we can see the cases which were post-transplant and those were on immunosuppression, minimum delta steroid. Those had relatively lower antibody response compared to those who were not on immunosuppressions. And we have also analyzed the duration of this Covishield from 4 weeks to greater than 4 weeks. Again, there was not that much of discrepancy. In the left corner, we can see the antibody response compared to the general patients. Even though almost all of the patients had antibody response, but the titer was relatively quite high in case of the control relative to the CKD patients. We haven't published our data for the KTR and we are still recruiting it. This is the update on the COVID-19 vaccine guidelines which we have just reported. Now, at this time we can say that vaccination is a must for all, and especially for the waitlist patients and the patients who are thinking for living donor transplantation. It's preferable to get at least 1 dose of vaccine before proceeding for transplant. We don't think that there is a need for changing the immunosuppression protocol for before or after vaccination, and the gap or the gap between the first dose and second dose. We just happy with whatever is the government recommendation. There is no special guideline for any increase or decrease dose for the solid organ transplantation. As of now, we are not recommending any change or any indication for third dose of vaccine. It should be in research purpose. It's not in the guidelines. Thank you for the consideration. I thank Professor Vivek Kutte for giving me the whole support and whole guidance throughout this research work. And I expect all my sincere gratitude to all the co-authors who have contributed in this research work in all these multi-centric projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hari Mishram, for, for that wonderful work you have done. Hearty congratulations for your original work on COVID-19 and transplantation, and also for this award of K.N. Udupa Memorial Oration, which is a prestigious award for outstanding research work done by ISOT members below 40 years. So wishing you all the very best in all your future endeavors.
Thank you, sir.
Ojas sir, any comments you would like to have? Ojas sir, are you online?
Yeah, I am here. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think whatever Dr. Mishram has presented is complemented from my side. And we all know knowledge on COVID vaccine is evolving. It is dynamic evolving. And new update, new inputs, new knowledge will come. Then our knowledge will keep on updating. But initial effort by the authors at the Institute of Kidney Research Center is well appreciated, and his attempt to work is well appreciated. I congratulate Dr. Mishram and all the best to him for future research. You keep on working. Don't worry. You've taken this challenge and keep on working. Keep on working is a success to your life. So this is my advice to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Let's conclude the oration session.